Medical Ministry, page 325, tells us that it is the Lord's purpose that his method of healing without drugs should be brought into prominence in every large city through our medical institutions. But is this even possible? Is it really possible to address all manner of diseases without drugs? That's what we're going to delve into in this video. You don't want to miss it. All right, everyone. So I'm going to share a story. We've been talking a lot on this channel about God's purpose for the Seventh-day Adventist integrated health and gospel ministry. And a big part of that is helping to reduce the burden of pain and suffering on the earth by addressing disease with God's method of drugless healing. And so I wanted to address that because undoubtedly there are people here, people who are watching the videos that we've put out. And if you haven't watched the Dunamis series, then I want to say go ahead and after you watch this video, make sure you start at number one and watch all six parts of that series because it'll give you context for what we're talking about here. Okay. So make sure you watch the Dunamis series. But back to our topic for today. Today I wanted to just kind of share my story and address the elephant in the room of is it really possible to heal every disease without drugs? Okay. All right, so that's what we're going to get into today. So I want to start by saying I'm Dr. Janelle Louis. I am a licensed naturopathic doctor, and I became a naturopathic doctor by attending a 4-year graduate level naturopathic medical school in the state of Arizona. Now, if you know anything about naturopathic medicine, then you know that the state laws, the scope of practice for naturopathic medicine varies from state to state. So Arizona happens to be one of those states where the scope of practice is pretty wide. So licensed naturopathic physicians in the state of Arizona can prescribe medications, and then we also use integrative modalities. So um, during my 4 years of school, I worked with different providers, so mostly naturopathic doctors and some medical doctors as well. And what we did was through my clinicals, we we treated disease, and we did so we prescribed meds, and we also use the naturopathic modalities. So after I finished my training and my husband and I was pregnant with our firstborn at the time, so we wanted to move a little bit closer to our family in Georgia where we both grew up. But we didn't want to be exactly in Georgia at the time, so we kind of thought about moving, from Arizona to Georgia, meet halfway and move to Kansas. Okay, Kansas was a state that licensed naturopathic medicine, but the scope of practice was so different. So in Kansas, licensed naturopathic doctors do not have prescriptive rights. So basically, what that means is we can use all of the naturopathic and integrative modalities, but we cannot prescribe medication. And I'll be honest with you and say I was nervous, okay? Because all of my experience before that time was, I always had, if the herbs didn't work, if the other naturopathic modalities didn't work, then we could prescribe medication or we could also do both at the same time. So that was how I was trained. So now thinking about moving to a place where the only thing that I had to rely on was going to be the grace of God and his promises and his natural remedies, that caused me a little bit of anxiety. I'll be honest and say that because I was like, I've never seen um, anyone like practice medicine without pharmaceutical medication. Like I had never seen that and I was nervous about it. Um, but the Lord showed me several things. We did end up moving to Kansas. And when we moved to Kansas, we ended up starting a practice there. And I learned a lot from my experience there. So we were in Kansas for 3 years before we got pregnant with our second son and ended up moving back to Georgia. Okay. So within those 3 years that we practiced in Kansas, I learned a lot of things. And in a little bit, I will show you some of the things that our patients have shared with us. Um, But I want to just focus right now on the things that I personally learned. One of the things that the Lord showed me was, and I've been preaching this, so if you've been watching the Dunamis series, then you know that this is something that I'm really serious about. Um, we cannot God cannot powerfully work through us if we doubt his power. Okay. That was the main thing that I learned from our time in Kansas City, in the Kansas City area. Our practice was in Overland Park, Kansas. God cannot work as powerfully through us as he wants to if we do not believe in his power to do so. Okay. So, when I say that, I'm thinking about Bible verses like Psalm 103. We read that God says, "Who forgiveth all thine iniquities, who healeth all thy diseases." Okay. I'm thinking about things like, I mentioned before, God doesn't like to share his glory. He wants to do things and he wants the glory to go to him. And so these are the lessons that I've been learning. And those were two big ones that I learned from the time that we practiced in Kansas. So, because that was my first time really practicing without what God really showed me was that I was in the habit of using the medication as a crutch. Okay. So because that was my first time practicing like where I didn't have the medication to lean on, in a situation like if I didn't know what else to do, it really grew my faith. It grew my faith in God's ability, in what God could do using his heaven approved methods, using the natural and integrative therapies, using the physiologic method. So I started to realize um, that God is not limited he's not limited by the modalities. All true healing comes from God, and he is able and he is willing to bring healing through um, the methods that he has approved. Okay, so let's. I'll go ahead and I'll share my screen, and I'm gonna start sharing some of the things that our patients had to say. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so here we are. I'm sharing my screen, and I just want to reiterate before we start reading some of the things that our patients had to say. Just want to reiterate that I'm sharing this because undoubtedly there is a healthcare professional who has been watching our Dunamis series or who has been studying, what God says about this work. And who has thought, like, hey, I would like to be a part of this work too, but maybe there are doubts in your mind. Maybe you're in the same situation that I was in. Maybe you've never really seen anyone practice in this way without using drugs. And maybe maybe you're wondering, is it really possible? And that's why I wanted to make this video because um, I believe that the reason that the Lord, this is kind of like it makes me think about Gideon, right? The reason that the Lord chooses these simple remedial agencies is because when we do this, the glory does not go to the pharmaceutical companies. The glory doesn't go to the wisdom of the doctor. The glory goes to the Lord Himself, who created the simple remedial agencies and who imparts his healing power to our patients in response to our faith in his ability and his willingness to do so. And so that's really what I've learned and what I continue to learn. And I just want to share it with you guys to answer any questions that you may have about engaging in this work and the practicality and the possibility and the reality of engaging in this work, the reality of following Christ's method of healing in your practice. All right. Before we start looking at our patient's testimonials, I want to say, obviously, I pulled all of these off of our Google My Business page, so they are available online. But I did block out our patients' names just for their privacy. Um, but again, they were aware and they posted these reviews, so they know that it's out there. Okay. All right. And the other thing I wanted to point out is that I'm not going to read the entire testimonial. I'm just going to point out the things that highlighted to me um, the positive impact that the Lord was able to make in the lives of our patients. Okay. So let's get started. This patient said, I finally felt empowered to make healthy choices that have positively impacted all aspects of my life. Okay. Those around me have also recognized the difference it has made in my life. So this is important because when we engage in the work using Christ's method, we can help our patients to, we can help positively impact every aspect of our patients' lives, like physical, mental, spiritual, social, every aspect, people around them. And she highlighted this as well. It says in the sentence before that, I love that the program focused on all areas of my health, right? And so this is something, this is just kind of, this gives insight into what is possible when we follow Christ's method. Okay. All right, this one says, personally, I've struggled with anxiety and sleep-related problems most of my adult life. And while I have been on pharmaceutical drugs for those issues, they were still not fully controlled. Okay. Then it says, by integrating her holistic approach into my care, I am now essentially free from daily anxiety and my sleep has improved dramatically. It says, within 3 visits and with a couple of very affordable genetic tests she recommended, we came up with a plan that included some dietary changes and supplementation, and I am feeling better than I have in years. Okay. This is what the Lord can do through these simple remedial agencies. Okay. And this, I don't want to get too much in detail because, because of the nature of this, but um, the Lord really did something amazing here. Okay, let's continue. Dr. Louis helped me to solve a health issue I've had for years. Within a month, my symptoms were gone. Okay, and this is just showing, I mean, of course, the patient listed me, but it's the Lord. It is the Lord. Okay, Dr. Louis identified a long-term condition that enabled me to get off an RX that I had been on for years. Okay, so this patient was taking a medication, and with our interventions, she was able to get off of the medication. That's what she's saying here. It says, I felt like I had tried everything with no results. And then she says, bottom line, best time and money I've ever spent. Now, I highlighted that because naturopathic medicine, in most states, is something that is not covered by insurance. Okay. So this is a service that people have to pay out of pocket for. With the exception of 2 of the patients that whose testimonials I'm sharing here, everyone else paid out of pocket for this service. And I think this is important because when it comes to the purely gospel forms of evangelism, gospel oriented forms of evangelism, such as like inviting a friend to church, or maybe asking someone to giving a book to someone. Sometimes it can feel like pulling teeth to kind of engage in those types of evangelism. However, when it comes to this integrated health and gospel work that the Lord has blessed us with, people view it as valuable to the point that they are willing to give up their money for the help that we can provide. And that is so important. That is so important. Because the Lord really puts us in a position where we are able to help people improve their physical, mental, social, and spiritual health, um, and they value it. You know. Okay, so let's continue. So this one says, my regular medical provider had missed a very important medical issue, and because of focus, that's the name of our practice, and their dedication to listening and searching for root causes, they were able to help me obtain a proper diagnosis and treatment plan. I had been sick for a couple of years and was at the point of not even being able to spend time doing any of the things I used to do. Happiness and laughter had been gone for a long time. But recently, after making the changes recommended, I have increased energy. I am not as depressed, and I'm able to wake up early and have my devotions again. I now have the desire to exercise and make better health choices, and I am laughing and smiling again. Amen. So this is again just showing how this work, by engaging in this work, we can touch every aspect, every facet of a person's being, physical, mental, spiritual, social. Is really, as I mentioned, is really truly a gift that God has given us, this work. All right. This one says, for 2.5 years, I was nowhere with getting my hypothyroidism under control. The RX would change, my TSH would dip a bit, then it would go right back up to levels that just made me want to sleep all the time. And then she says, my TSH was in the normal range for the first time in 3 years after our program, and I've maintained it for several months. Okay, so not only is this work something that is, not only is the Lord using these modalities, He is using them a lot of times in places where conventional medicine could do nothing else for the patient. And I hope you're seeing that as we go through these testimonials. There are multiple patients who have said, my regular provider had missed something. They missed a diagnosis, or, the conventional medicine couldn't help me, or I was taking this RX and it wasn't really helping with the symptom and I was able to get off of it. Um, this is really to answer the question that we posed at the beginning. Yes, unequivocally, yes. This God's method truly does work when we have the appropriate training and we know how to use it. And even sometimes, just in response to faith, the Lord comes through. I'll be honest and say that, because that's true as well. But it is better for us to have the training and know how to intelligently um, how to intelligently do this work and responsibly do this work, because the Lord blesses it and it touches people's lives in a way that our other means of evangelism simply cannot. Okay, let's continue. Okay, this one says, after a short time with some dietary changes, reduction of my blood pressure medication, and some education about supplements, I have seen vast improvements in my lab results in areas that have previously baffled doctors. Okay, this is the same thing that we're talking about. And we are told in inspiration that God's methods are superior. That's what we're told. His method of drugless healing is superior. And that's what we're seeing here. In places where conventional medicine had no answers, God came through and he clarified the situation and helped the people obtain optimal healing. Okay, let's continue. Okay, this is our last one. So he says, last year I was diagnosed with heart failure. Okay, he says, Dr. Louis took her time listening to my story and she asked some important questions. Okay, I highlighted that because I wanted to just highlight the importance of doing a comprehensive biopsychosociospiritual assessment with our patients. It's important for us to ask our patients questions about each area, each facet of life, okay? Because all of these areas can be contributing to physical, they can manifest as physical disease, okay? So let me know in the comments if you want me to do a video talking more about my biopsychosociospiritual inventory that I do with patients. And if enough people do, then I'll probably record a video about that. But I want you to, whether I record the video or not, I want you to keep in mind that this is something very important for us to do. We have to get a better understanding of what's going on with the patient in every area of their life, because all of these things can be contributing factors to the manifestation, the physical manifestation or the mental manifestation that we're seeing. Okay. It says, since I've been following her detailed wellness plan, I feel significantly better. Of course, God gets all the credit for putting me on the road to recovery. Amen. Okay. Then it says, I am doing moderate to high intensity exercise for 60 to 90 minutes per day with no problems, and I am not using any drug medications. This is what the patient wrote. Okay. So I just wanted to share these testimonials from our patients, just to give you an idea of what is possible, to give you an idea of what the Lord can do and what He wants to do through our work, through this integrated health and gospel work. Um, as I always say, He is truly looking for willing vessels, for people who will take Him at His word, surrender to Him, and allow Him to have His way in their lives, in their practices, if they're healthcare professionals, and yeah, that's what the Lord is looking to do. So I wanted to just share my testimony or my experience, my journey with this, because I know, if you are taught a certain way, it's difficult to kind of mentally deviate from that, especially when you don't have a mentor or someone else who has gone that way before. Especially when you don't know, like, how do I practically implement God's Christ method of healing, into my practice. Sometimes it can, I know for me, it felt kind of scary, just stepping out in faith and doing that, with no one else really to guide me. But the Lord was faithful. The Lord came through, and I believe He'll do the same for you. And again, I'm always here, so if you have any questions, then go ahead and send us an email, leave a comment, send us a message. yeah, we're here. So that is what I wanted to share today. And I pray that the Lord that the Holy Spirit would continue to speak to your heart, that He would show you exactly where He wants you to be in this work at this stage of Earth's history. And I pray that you will continue to surrender to His leading. And I pray the same for myself. And I'll see you in another video. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel so you'll see when we post future videos. Okay. All right. See you then. Bye.